Welcome to Letarte on Location. I'm your host, Steve Letarte. We've spent more than 20 years of your life traveling the road, first as a NASCAR crew chief and now as an analyst for NBC. You are bound to meet some interesting characters along the way. With Letarte on Location, I try to bring you closer to some of those personalities I've connected with and do it in a bunch of interesting locations. So sit back and get ready for some off-the-grid conversation. Today is a special day. It's home again. Myself, Chad Knaus is the guest. We're at Hendrick Motorsports in, I'm going to call it the old 24 shop. Is that fair?
We spent a lot of hours in this shop, buddy.
We did. CK, thanks for joining. So now this is the Papa Joe Hendrick meeting room.
It is.
All right, so this is new. This didn't exist when I left 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool spot. Obviously, as the company's continued to grow, we've had a need for conference space to bring the teams, space that's available to our sponsors to come in and have lunches or whatever situation may be. 10 minutes ago, I had a meeting in here with the whole 24 team and had a keynote speaker come in, and we had lunch, and we chatted about where we're at this round of the playoffs. So yeah, we use this spot, and it's been dedicated to Papa Joe Hendrick, Mr. Hendrick's father. Got a lot of his cool memorabilia on the wall. Obviously World War II vet and cool things such as that. And then obviously we got some really cool fire seats. I was looking at a few of those, man. Those bring back some serious memories.
So we're going to go through a gamut of stuff. You and I have a lot of water under the bridge. For those that don't know, Chad and I worked together on the 24 originally. Then Chad left. When he came back to be crew chief of the 48, I was on the 24. Then when I was promoted, we were basically crew chiefs in the same building, running the same race teams. Sharing office space. There's a lot of good conversations here. We're going to get into how I ended up in a motorhome because Chad's got to take a couple weeks off and let me borrow his. So we have a lot of stuff to talk about. Let's start right at the beginning, though. So how does a kid from the Midwest end up at Charlotte in NASCAR? I know you're a racer, but how did you end up in North Carolina?
Whew. Well, I always wanted to. I worked on my father's race cars. I think a lot of people know that. And I had an aunt and uncle that lived in Lumberton, North Carolina, which is not too far away, just over towards the East Coast, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours from Charlotte, I'd say. And at that point, I didn't know a whole lot about NASCAR racing. I'd done a lot of the Midwest stuff, been down south a few times. And I was like, shoot, well, I know that, racing, quote unquote, is a southern sport and everything is based out of Charlotte, North Carolina. So I graduated high school and I just said, hey, guys, I'm leaving. And my aunt and uncle,
like
that was it.
I like that.
The day after I graduated, I think it was 2 days after I graduated, my aunt and uncle came up and they had a Ford Taurus wagon with my cousin in it. She's younger than I. And I put my motorcycle, a black and white TV, and a basket of clothing in there because that's all I owned. And we towed it all the way down to Lumberton, North Carolina. And I started working for my uncle, who was a plant manager at a company in Roland, North Carolina, which was a company called Advanced Drainage Systems. So I came down here, started working and handing out resumes and calling people. And I had some pretty unique contacts. My father raced against Mark Martin.
Right.
I had a pretty cool relationship. We knew Alan Kowicki. Raced against him in the Midwest. So they were guys I was bouncing things back and forth with. And Mark really tried to help guide me. Never got on with those guys. I had a chance. I was actually going to work for Alan. And then he lost his Xerox sponsorship that winter. And he's like, man, I don't know if I'm going to be here next year. Right. So all that goes on and on and on. And it didn't work out. I didn't get on the team. And left, went to Ohio. And I was an engineer for Advanced Drainage Systems at that point. And I was like, man, this desk job, this real life,
this isn't going to work.
It's not going to happen. So I punted and moved back to Illinois, worked with my father on his race team again, and then I got an opportunity in 1991 to go to work for Stanley Smith in Chelsea, Alabama, which was a really unique little team. Most people don't know this, but we had qualified really well at some races, raced pretty well, mom and pop operation, but the people on this team were amazing. So we had Joe Scheer Jr. on there.
Right.
We had Butch Hilton on this team. We had Felipe Lopez on this team. We had Ronnie Crooks on this team. Todd Foster on this team. So many people that are really
there's a lot of trophies in the
influential people in motorsports were working on that team back then. So it was a lot of fun and learned an awful lot. And then we were racing in Atlanta in 1992. Richard Petty's last race, Jeff Gordon's first race, and we were there in just the middle of the chaos that was ensuing around that whole race. And I was like, man, that whole thing with that 24 car would be kind of cool to get to be a part of. And went through the winter in Alabama, started racing again the next season with Stanley, and then I was like, I'm not getting anywhere here. Which I do still have my first pay stub. I love telling this story.
Outstanding.
My first pay stub for Stanley Smith, I was 2 weeks' pay for $289.
That's a steep curve. In 1990, that's still a steep curve.
That's tight, baby.
See, it makes my first one was I guess must have been 2 weeks. 2 weeks was $450, I think.
Yeah, that's what we paid here is 2 weeks back then.
Yeah.
And but nonetheless, I
awesome.
called up Ray, and I was like, hey man, I really want to get an opportunity. Or this was always best. So I called Hendrick Motorsports. Blah blah blah, 3400. Man, just called
there was no Google
main line, right?
Yeah, right.
The receptionist picks up, says Hendrick Motorsports. I was like, yeah, can I speak to Ray Evernham? She says, hold, please.
Just transferred you.
That was it. And I'm sitting there like, there's no way this is going to work, right? And I hear, hello? In this Jersey accent. I'm like, holy smokes. I'm like, hello, I speak to Ray? And he's like,
this is. There was no hand filtering the calls back then.
And he says, what can I do for you? And I said, hey, I'm Chad Knaus. I work for Stanley Smith, based out of Chelsea, Alabama. And I'd really love an opportunity to talk to you about coming to work for you. And he goes, well, lucky for you, I just fired a guy. When can you be here? I was like, man, I'll be there tomorrow. He's like, all right, come on in. We'll talk to you. So I drove all the way, slept in my car that night, and met Ray at 8 o'clock the next morning and sat down in front of him, kind of told him what I was about, what I could do. Talk about being intimidated. And I remember sitting there just like yesterday. He says to me, well, where do you want to be in 5 years? And I said, in 5 years, I want your job.
That's awesome.
And he was like, all right, you're hired.
That's it.
And that was it. And I'm here ever since.
And people, they can think all they want, but it wasn't shocking if someone got fired. We had a lot of people getting fired and a lot of toolboxes getting pushed into the parking lot. So that's early 93.
That's 93.
You start there. In 93, I was a 14-year-old kid. Well, how about this? I moved to North Carolina the day of the 94 Brickyard. The day that you guys were winning first ever Brickyard, I was in the station wagon with my dad and our dog driving to North Carolina. We listened to it on the radio.
Isn't that fantastic?
So it's a small world for sure.
Man, I remember when you showed up, and we're like, Ray's like, he gave you to Michael Landis, I think, for the most part. He says, give this kid something to do. Keep him busy.
His dad works in the chassis shop, just keep him busy.
Keep him busy, he mows my grass. And we're like, all right, great. So immediately what we do is in any environment, you just pick on him.
Yep.
And that's all we did is we just picked on you and gave you weird chores and things to do and just kind of just abused you for a long time, which was fun.
There's no job you can't do. So this building, when I started, the 24 shop was up on the hill.
Yeah.
I don't know what's up there anymore.
It's carbon fiber shop.
Okay, so it's still carbon fiber. Year 1 or 2, we moved here. Like 96.
This is 97 we moved down here.
Okay, 97. I thought I was going to get fired moving.
Oh, gosh, I remember this story.
What did I tip over?
The Magnaflux machine.
The Magnaflux machine. So for the people who are listening don't know, there's a piece of equipment that checks cracks. And I didn't know this, but apparently the fluid that's in it's only in the top half. And I bumped it with a forklift and dumped it in the parking lot.
It was a disaster. We were at the racetrack. And we were at the track when you did this because you guys were moving as we were gone.
It was bad.
And I remember we're there and we hear this has gone down. And we're like, that kid's done.
Yeah.
He's toast.
Yeah.
If you hadn't been his neighbor, you wouldn't have made it.
I know, but for two things. If I hadn't been his neighbor, but I feel like I just unlike you said you wanted his job.
Yeah.
I didn't hide from it.
Oh, no.
What happened? This is what happened.
You were never afraid.
No, you can't be.
Still not.
No, it can't be. So I remember, I want people to understand what it was like back in those days. My number one job every day was to go get dinner, and then I was off. I would come from high school, right, and I would work in the afternoon, and at like 6:30-ish, I would go pick up dinner. And people don't believe me when I'll ask you this question. They don't believe me. What time did you work to back then?
We worked until Ray came out of his office.
No one believes that. They're like, that's not real. I'm like, oh, no, that's real.
No, that's the truth.
He hoped he didn't get busy.
Yeah, well, that's exactly
forget about you.
He'd be up in the DJ booth, and we'd be down there working. And when I say DJ booth, people don't understand it. So he had an upstairs office. And you would come in, and the parts room was down below him. You'd roll up the stairs, and he'd sit there, and he would look over the whole shop. And you would work, and you just work and doing your thing. And you didn't want to make too much noise at one time because you didn't want him to look up and see you. You didn't want to be the guy that was jerking around, right? But, yeah, we did not. And it was very, very consistently 5 for $5 Arby's roast beef sandwiches. We'd just get a bunch of those. We would mow those down.
The guy knew me by name.
Yeah.
Oh, come on in, Steve. Here's your order. Give me the box.
And then we would sit there and we would work. And whether it was the fab shop back in the corner or the setup plate, setting up cars or whatever it was that we were doing, and Ray would be like, huh. Like he would almost kind of like be startled.
Right.
Oh, you're still here?
What are you all still here for?
Yeah, why are you guys still? Go home, guys. And we're like, not till you tell me. Okay, go home. Like,
That's great.
Nobody took it upon themselves except for maybe one or two, and they didn't last very long.
No, you can get him his water. This is just a podcast. We're not as fancy as a TV show. This is low-key stuff. Low-key stuff.
Thanks, Ashley.
So we're down here once again at Hendrick Motorsports in the old 24 shop. It's now the Papa Joe Hendrick meeting room. You saw DJ booth. You're going to like this story. When we moved into this building, I thought it would be funny. Remember the odd jobs used to guys give? I would clean the light bulbs. That was Michael's thing. I would stand on a forklift. Osha would be really impressed. And I would hold on to the fluorescent tubes, and we would drive across the shop, and it would go from kneeling to standing to kneeling because they was there. So one day I was cleaning the ceiling fan in front of Ray's office, and he wasn't here. So I was like, I know what I'm going to do. And I taped like 5 pennies on top of the fan blade. So out in front of his office, it would just right, and it bothered him so much. He was like, "Steve, you got to fix that." No problem. So he was gone one day, and I took the pennies off, and he was like, "Great job." I'm like,
"You got an attaboy."
Yeah, I was like, "No problem. I fixed what I broke."
So this room, and you remember this, Steve. This was the fab shop, and I can remember we had a surface plate right there. We had a bandsaw right here, and a bench right here. I can remember right there. I was welding. I don't remember. I think it was welding exhaust pipes. I don't remember what it was right off the top of my head. But we had a gentleman. His name was Bill Deese, and he was the master of our cowls. And he was an old school fabricator. And old fabricators are always just a little crotchety and cranky.
You have to be. It's part of the skill set.
It is. So he would sit there and he would just work on this piece, and it was beautiful. So he's building this air box, and then he's cleaning it with carnauba wax, right? He gets it all cleaned up, throws his rags in said trash can that's sitting right there, and I'm welding right next to it. And for those of you at home that don't know this, carnauba wax is extremely flammable.
It is.
And so I'm sitting there, and I go, put my helmet down, and I'm like, man, it's a little hot in here. And I lift up, and again, I'm right here, and the flames are going up the wall. And that was an overhead door right there. And I can remember I grabbed that thing and I kicked it out. And we had just bought brand new trash cans.
Oh, no. So
Landis, who was our parts guy at the time, he was really upset that I completely burnt one of the trash cans.
He is the best parts guy in the world because he's as tight as they come.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you want a Sharpie, you got to give him a used one.
Turn one in.
Yeah.
Turn one in.
Still
Although Chad would go around, and if he could pick up a cut tie wrap, you all were in trouble.
Yeah.
I do remember that.
Yeah,
I do remember that. So those were the 24 days. Then I started traveling.
Yep.
And I want to tell this story, and I'll see if I remember correctly. 95, Gordon has the chance to win his first championship.
Yep.
So we brought a second car down. And when we say we, I want to be clear. I was a floor sweeper, loaded coolers, washed the truck with captain. Like, I did, I don't want to say meaningless. They all had to be done, but I was doing the basic entry job.
Yep.
But they treated me like I was one of the group. So we brought a second team down there.
Yeah, we did.
Jeff Purvis, is that who drove it?
It started with Purvis, and we ended up putting Purvis got hurt in the ARCA race.
Yep.
And or was it the other way around?
I can't remember.
Oh, gosh, I'm trying to remember. Nonetheless, we
had
had
a white car. I remember
white car, number 51, had 2 drivers.
Hood about blew off it.
There was a short track car, and we used to acid dip the sheet metal back then. If NASCAR's listening, I had nothing to do with it. It was completely Evernham's idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Call Ray. His office is in Mooresville.
Yeah, exactly. So we would acid dip the sheet metal. Well, just so you know, Atlanta, even back then, was to a 200-mile-per-hour racetrack.
Oh, yeah.
So the hood was paper thin. And it would go around the racetrack, and it was just like, and it was cracking down the center. We were trying to weld it back together at the track. But, yeah, so we had to go, and we were trying to make sure that we secured the points championship with the second car. You, myself, Butch Lamoureux.
It was a motley crew.
Phil Hammer.
Yep, Hammer.
Who got promoted to crew chief the next day and didn't come into work. Remember that?
Yeah.
After he won the championship.
He was going to be the crew chief of the 25.
25 across the way.
So we win the championship. We all celebrate.
Yep.
And we drive the Brickyard van. There's so many layers to this. So we drive one of the early Brickyard vans.
Yep.
When you win the pole at the Brickyard, you get a van.
Yep.
And Jeff was great qualifying there, so we had all these Brickyard vans. We drove home, and I'll never forget this. I lived with my parents over in Harrisburg.
Oh,
remember this?
Oh, God, I remember
so we get
this
here,
story.
And Knaus was like, he's looking out for me. I was a 16-year-old kid. He's like, Letarte, where are you going? I said, well, I need a ride home, which is completely out of your way. But you're like, there's no Uber. Like, this is 96, right? You're like,
you can't even get a cab.
yeah,
in
like,
Charlotte.
he's like, you're not going to get, we're in Concord. There's no cabs up here. All right, I'll bring you home.
Yeah.
So you had the Camaro.
I did. So let's back up just a little bit. So it's a 4-hour drive from Charlotte to Atlanta. Yeah, 4 hours. 4 hours. So you win the championship. I was a tire changer. Stevie was there. He was still working. I was a tire changer on the 24.
Right.
You were still working on the other car, I think.
Yeah, whatever had to be done.
Whatever that car was,
right.
And it raced and did whatever it needed to do. And then, which was really fast, by the way.
At one point, they were like, you can't get in front of the other car. Because Gordon, like, you guys were only running like, I don't know, 17th or 18th.
Yeah, it wasn't very pretty. So nonetheless, you win the championship, and they would bring this 18-wheeler out there with a big flatbed on the back. And the cool thing that we did back then through the sponsor was Winston at the time in NASCAR. You had champagne bottles, and you were on this big trailer, and you made a victory lap around the racetrack.
Right.
Which was so cool.
Place was packed.
Oh, yeah. So we're spraying champagne, and then we go through. So we're covered in champagne, literally like covered in champagne, stinky. And then we tear the car down because we used to inspect at the racetrack. And, hey, man, fact of the matter is we just won the championship. So we were drinking some beers, had a good time, and,
I was only 16, so I couldn't. They knew
wasn't.
they had a DD. I was driving everyone home, so they were like, we're good.
So he's driving home from Atlanta. When we get home, it's 4 hours later. We hadn't had drinking forever, so I'm driving him home. And I had just washed my car before we went to the racetrack. So
Officer Smiley.
It was a black Camaro, and we pull out of the shop, and we get across over by Charlotte Motor Speedway, and there's a big puddle of water. I'm like, well, I'm just going to drive around it. So I crossed over a double yellow to go around this water. And no more did I get back into the proper lane, and the lights come on behind us. And I'm like,
it's now like 4 in the morning, 4 or 5 in the morning.
And here I am with a 16-year-old kid. So I'm like, all right.
We haven't done anything wrong. We'll be fine.
Done nothing wrong. And he rolls up, and I'm not thinking anything. And I just roll the window down, and he sticks his head in, and he's like, excuse me, have you all been drinking?
Look, you're not going to believe this story, officer, but
I think you got a minute. This is going to take a while.
Yeah.
And he's like, so how old are you? And Stevie's like,
yeah,
16.
16. Look about 14 in my glasses.
Yeah, so we got pulled over. I thought I was going to get arrested for contributing to the delinquency of a minor right there.
I was already delinquent. You could have been arrested, not for that night, but many other nights, which we're not going to get completely into everything on this podcast, so let's be clear. So that's the 24 car, and then help me, what year did you leave?
1997, we had just won the championship.
Yep.
And I left after that to go to DEI in 1998.
Yep,
and,
so you went to DEI, car chief for Steve Park.
Yep.
A lot of different opportunities away from Hendrick.
Yep.
I stayed here and kind of moved up through. Ray left in 99.
Yep.
Robbie came on board, and then what were you doing? So you had DEI.
Yep. So DEI, and then I kind of freelanced for a while.
Yep.
Ray left in 99. He approached me, and he wanted me to be the team leader / crew chief on the development team that he was building for Dodge. So he hired me, and we built this little race team up in Mooresville, which was basically nothing more than an R&D center for Dodge to come back into the sport. So it was a lot of fun for me. Now, Ray can be very, very tight and frugal with his money, obviously.
Can be. Ray, if you're listening, you still are.
So we operated on a shoestring, but we built some really cool cars. We brought a lot of unique technology to our sport that a lot of the race teams hadn't used yet. So it was a really cool environment. And Ray at that point consumed Bill Elliott Racing and became the owner of that, which was going to then be Evernham Motorsports. So I had some opportunities to work with Bill and Ernie Elliott and a lot of the guys on the Dodge program. And then let's see what happened. So then, we hired Casey Atwood.
Right.
And that was my first real crew chief opportunity was with Casey Atwood at Martinsville and Richmond in 2000.
Man, time flies.
Yeah, man.
2000, and then in 01, middle of 01. I'll never forget this. So I think we might have still been in this building.
Yeah.
I think we were still in this building.
Transition.
We were walking around, and here comes Jeff bebopping in with Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah.
And now, I love Jimmy to death, but my man could not win or run up front in an Xfinity car. Terrible. And we were looking around like.
Still is terrible in an Xfinity car.
Let's be clear.
For the record.
We like, he was walking around, we were like, what in the hell? What have they got going on? And so we didn't think anything of it. And then, like, a couple weeks later, Jeff's like, no, we're thinking about adding a car, and we're going to have him drive it. We thought my man has hit his head too many times. And he told us a story about how he chased Jimmy around maybe Michigan or somewhere, and he was doing more with the car than he ever could. We're going to hire him. So we kind of get through that, and then we were going to start a second team. And then I was in, I won't say in some meetings, I was in the peripheral when people get out of the meetings. I was, this is what they said about you coming back to be the crew chief for that. And we got my old buddy Burdett came over.
Yeah.
Well, he was already there, but he transferred over the 48. Ken House, crew chief, their first race at Charlotte. And then heading into 02, when did you get here? You got here at the end of 01.
End of 01, December 01.
Yeah, so we were fortunate. Actually, the story goes, people don't know, we destroyed a car in 01. And we stole one of Jimmy's first Charlotte cars and raced it because we were racing for a championship.
Yeah.
But neither here nor there. So you came here at the end, December of 01.
Yep.
I mean, instant success. Like, at what point, I know you've always been ambitious. But when you pulled in here in December, like, what were your goals? What did you think? I mean, because you'd only crew chief, let's be fair, 60 races maybe?
Not even that. Stacy Compton 1 full year in 2001 and then 2 races prior, so that would have been 36.
And not to discount Stacy Compton's team, but when you go from that team to Hendrick Motorsports, that is a different.
Yeah, it's a different mentality.
It's a different world.
Yeah, we had 29 full-time teammates at that Melling Racing deal, and you walk in here and it's like, whew, man, we had 20-some people that just do stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We had 20.
How many here? 600 now?
There's over 600 now.
If Rick's listening, it's like 500.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know how those deals work.
But,
So what was it like, though? When you came here in December, were you scared? Were you nervous?
No, I was terrified.
Your shot?
I was terrified. And it's really interesting. So they announced the Jimmy Johnson thing. Now, mind you, this happened really quick.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, it happened like, boom, we're going to do this. And I was actually in Homestead sitting on the wall talking to a buddy of mine, Jay Guy, who was crew chief in the XFINITY Series. Old crew chief in the Cup Series. We'd worked together for years and years. And Jimmy walks by. And, again, I don't know Jimmy, and I have the same opinion you do. This guy can't do much of
like him. Nice guy,
but
yeah.
In an XFINITY car.
All I can remember is his wreck at the Glen. That's all I remember.
Well, everybody does. We still don't know
right.
that, right? So I'm sitting on the wall talking to Jay, and Jimmy walks by. And Jay's like, hey, come here. I want you. This is my buddy, Chad. Hey, I'm Jimmy. Oh, hey, nice to meet you. I've never seen you without your helmet.
Yeah, right.
And Jay says, this is the guy you need to be your crew chief next year. And Jimmy's like, yeah, okay.
Thanks.
And I said, yeah, okay. That was it. So we split, and then I had actually seen Randy Dorton about a week after that, believe it or not, at a tanning salon. And
I'm going to let that one be.
And we chatted it up, and then Brian Weitzel called me about 3 or 4 days later and said, Brian called me and says, this is funny, hey, you're going to get a call from Rick.
Oh, yeah, the pre-call.
Well, why? Rick can just call. I mean, I got his number.
The pre-call.
But nonetheless, so Mr. H calls me. He's like, hey, I want you to meet with these guys, Robbie and Ken and Jimmy. And we met, and we hit it off. And, all that's been talked about multiple times. But there's a table of about 8 people. And Jimmy and I, we just sat down and had a conversation, like completely oblivious to what everybody else was doing. Right. We just chatted it up. Decided we wanted to do it, and we kind of formed a bond and a realization really quick, knowing that this was our shot. Like, hey, man, this is our opportunity.
Right.
If we don't do this, like, you're going to be driving XFINITY cars. I'm going to be, like, just bebopping around trying to think about what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And we really dug in deep with one another from the onset, and it was awesome.
I don't think I could have understood that before I switched to Dale, because I think Dale and I had that same opinion, right? Like, I went winless with Jeff Gordon.
Yeah.
He was floundering at a company where he should win, and we kind of got to that point where it was like, okay, look, I'm not sure either of us, are going to be able to survive this.
Yep.
And he, and I think it helped, to your point, kind of break the ice. And
man,
it's an up and down. People don't realize, it's my job now to try to explain it to everyone. I struggle to try to put in perspective the pressure of week in and week out competition. Like, it doesn't matter how good you were yesterday.
Yeah.
There's always another chance to not be good enough.
It's so funny. For instance, driving home last weekend, we transferred, and to the next round of the playoffs. Huge goal. And I don't mean to be jumping ahead, but
no, it's perfect. Actually, great weekend, smooth weekend, and you took a playoff rookie into the round of 12. That should be celebrated completely.
Exactly. Driving home with my wife afterwards, I'm pissed.
Oh yeah.
she's like, what?
What's wrong with you?
What is wrong with you? And I'm like, I said, I'm just conflicted.
Right.
I'm not mad. I'm not pissed.
I don't know what I should be. Should I be happy?
I'm just a little conflicted because she's like, you said your goal was to transfer to the next round.
Don't listen to what I say.
Right. And I said, exactly. She's like, well, you did. You should be really happy. And I'm like, I am. But we didn't win.
Right.
We got beat by 2 teammates. That's not acceptable. And she's like, I can't live like, I don't understand you. And I'm like, well, it's just
you should have just said get used to that.
Yeah, it's just the truth. Well, she is.
I'm 20 years in, and she doesn't understand
she
me
gets
either.
it. My wife's fantastic, and she completely understands. But she's like, sheesh, But it's the truth. Like you're only as good as your last performance, and if you don't win, it wasn't good enough. And that's the way that it is in this sport.
So when did that start? Now listen, I know it started for you and me working for Ray way back when, because Ray, how many times would we win a race, walk to victory lane, and heard about everything we did wrong and how we need to be better?
And I'll see you tomorrow morning at 7.
Yeah, actually, we're good. Yeah, we'll sleep in, be here at 7.
Yeah,
those don't go together, but okay.
Till 12.
Yeah, right. But Jimmy and you come out of the box and win Fontana.
Yeah, man.
So, like at any point when you win Fontana, take me back to that first win, because I can still see the picture. You want to talk about a motley crew of that road crew. I think y'all took a picture at the start-finish line, right?
Yeah. So
now, was that one still in your office? Because as
It's
long as I work with you, it was up in your office.
my trophy is.
Okay,
That's
trophy.
the only
That's what it
trophy that
was.
I keep on display is the Fontana trophy.
I knew that was so you go to Fontana and you win. Jimmy's a California guy. I mean, it couldn't have been scripted
Off strategy.
better. Yeah.
Which was even makes when and for those
you
of
could take this however you want, but you don't win a lot on strategy because you just had the fastest cars most of the time.
Right.
So you didn't have to use strategy. It's kind of like a backhanded compliment, but yeah, normally you just beat everybody with the fastest cars.
Right. So we did a pit strategy call, got out front, got ahead of the 97 car, which was Kurt Busch at the time, led him and won the race. And there's a lot of other stuff I just smoothed over, but when you win and you know this, Steve, is when you win off of a cool pit call, like you just man, I earned my dollar today.
That Xfinity race a couple weeks ago, they won off fuel mileage. I think my quote was, and that one was for the crew chiefs everywhere. Like,
right.
Not many times you
man.
get it. But
yeah, for sure. And that's so we did that. And again, Jimmy did fantastic. The team did fantastic. So I'm not playing it down, but I was like, man, this is great. And I remember Robbie Loomis came up to me as I was walking down pit road afterwards, who was crew chief for Jeff at the time, and you were car chief on the team. And he put his arm around me and he said, buddy, you'll always have a job in racing now. He said, all you got to do is win one race as a crew chief and you're set. So I was like, whew, man, I'll be able to eat for a while, But it was great. We had such a good group of guys, man. We had Ron Malik was on the team, Jason Burdett. We had, so many different people. And what we really worked hard on at that point was building a team of youth that was going to be there for a while. And we had that right there. And, I mean, we had people on the team who couldn't even shave yet.
Right.
So it was really cool.
Yeah, you kind of broke the mold of I'm not going to go for experience. I'm going to go for the right people who want it the most. And I have to commend you because eventually I took the same role that you had, and that's way harder to manage than a bunch of older, more mature guys that get it. Like you get a guy and you're like, gosh, I know that guy's going to be good if I just don't kill him first. He's going to be really good at his job.
Yeah.
But it's hard to. And then you win right away in 02. You have so much success. And then 05.
Yep.
So Gordon misses the playoffs.
Yep.
And the reason I have to relive 05 is, I'll be honest, I can't remember what happened with y'all because of what was happening in my life.
Yeah.
Right. So Robbie's mom was sick.
Yep.
I was the car chief. We missed the playoffs. Robbie decides that, hey, I'm going to go have some other personal things I have to take care of. I get the call to move up, and those last 10 races are just a blur to me. But while I was living in this fog of a blur, you guys were going out and getting the job done.
Yeah. 2005, which you'll say that, but oddly enough, that was my worst year emotionally in that era. It was so bad at the end of that year. That's when Jimmy and I had our meeting with
Milk and Cookies meeting?
Milk and Cookies meeting that I'm sure you've got in your notes here somewhere you're going to bring up. But I'm going to tell you how bad I felt about that year is that I made 2005 the unlock code on my phone. So that every time I unlock, it's not like you you can look at it now and use your face. But I made that my code because I knew that I never wanted to have another year in my life like that year.
Because it was good on the racetrack.
It wasn't emotionally.
That's great. I mean, that's amazing stuff, right? That's what, when I talk to people and fans, I get this all the time. Well, why'd you leave? I'm like, man, you don't understand, right? Like, I know it's hard to believe, but Jimmy's a person. Chad's a person. Like, I'm a person. We're not these make-believe robots that go and do work.
It was really tough on me because we had set the expectation that we should be winning championships in 2002. And when you don't do that, and you're into 2002, you didn't do it. 2003, you didn't do it. 2004, you didn't do it. 2005, you didn't do it. What's the problem?
Right.
And that was a burden on me that was just so intense, man. It was tough. That was a tough year for me emotionally.
Well, you worked through it because you come back in 06. And, I mean, and who knew what 06 was going to – maybe you knew, but who knew what 06 was going to start for the legacy of the 48. I mean, you start winning and you don't stop winning for basically the rest of the decade.
Yeah, that was a really exciting time. It was a lot of fun. So we've talked about it. We had a lot of young people. And at that point, the younger people that I had were getting more mature, stronger in their positions. Leading up to that point, I had, and I shouldn't say I, but it was me because I was the problem. I made all the decisions, setup, strategy.
I remember this shift. There was a moment, and take it for whatever it's worth. There was a moment where there was the 48 team's success and failure funned through you.
That was it.
And frankly, I just don't know if it can be withstood for a test of time.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. You deserve the majority of the credit. My point, though, is it takes a team. It truly does. And when you're the point contact, when it all goes through one guy, man, I don't know how you survive.
It was tough.
So take me back to 05. So how bad at the end of 05? I don't. My podcast, we don't talk about the meeting and everything that everybody knows about. Talk about the other stuff. We know Rick talked with you and Jimmy, but, like, was there a moment where you had to look in the mirror and say, like, do I want to do this? How bad do I want this? Can I do this? Like, what were the questions you're asking yourself?
There was a lot of can I because I didn't know how to transition away from me.
Right, you put it all on
the team.
Right.
Because it was just me.
That's how you organized
Everybody
it?
did their work. Everybody did what they were supposed to, but every decision came across my desk. And
you got to share the load.
Yeah, Mr. H is like, look, man, you have to let the rest of your team have skin in the game. And like, well, they can't do this. You don't know. You don't let them try. So
here's a guy with 100 dealerships, right?
This guy gets it.
Like, he doesn't. There's no way. If he sold every car, he wouldn't sell many cars, right? Like, he's the guy.
Exactly right. And the long and short of it, that's kind of what came out of the meeting that I had with him. Jimmy and I had our thing, and we got beyond that. But it was way bigger than that. It was more about where I was and how was I going to continue to advance and improve.
Well, whatever you figured out over that offseason worked.
Well, here's what was really cool. So, promoted, my car chief gave him more responsibility. Not promoted, but gave him more responsibility. My engineering staff gave those guys some more responsibility. Darian Grubb, Greg Ives.
Yeah, y'all were listening correctly, just so we can go through the list. Ron Malik was the car chief. The group that he was struggling to give responsibility to was Ron Malik, Darian Grubb, Greg Ives.
Right.
You guys wouldn't know the shock, but he's really basically a genius as well. So 4, okay. Just making sure I clear that up.
You're exactly right, man.
Yeah.
So what was so beautiful about it is we worked all winter long. We didn't have to work on our cars. Our cars were fast.
Right.
We had to work on systems, procedures, and how the team operated. We worked really hard on that. Show up for Daytona. Things didn't go too well. They found some stuff on our car they didn't like. I get suspended straight out of the gate 4 weeks. Boom.
Yep. Thanks for coming, but you're going to take some weeks off.
Yeah, we'll see you.
You're going to learn to delegate because you're not going to be here.
Because you're going to be about 600 miles away.
That's right.
So, or however many miles it is. But anywho, so as I'm leaving, I'm like, all right, we're going to see if we did this thing right. And it was amazing. I'm sitting at home, and look, I'm looking at a computer just like you are, communicating with the guys at the racetrack just like we all do, but it's not the same as being there, right? I'm watching it on TV. I'm like, take 2 tires, put these shocks on in practice, do this. Okay, we're on the phone. We didn't even have FaceTime then, right? So it's a lot more difficult. And we get the car set up. It goes great. And then we go start the race, execute a flawless race. Greg Ives and Darian did a fantastic job. I'm basically, cheerleading them from afar, win the Daytona 500, and I'm not there. And I'm sitting there, and I can remember this. I'm sitting there on the sofa as they're coming around, as Jimmy's coming around to take the checkered flag on the last lap for the Daytona 500 with a team that we had worked so hard for and with to get into that position that I cried.
Yeah.
I was like, man, this is just amazing to see these guys execute at that level. And everybody's like, and I've been asked that, like, what's your favorite win? That win right there.
Wow.
That is the most influential win for the 48 car in history right there. And it was a very proud moment for me.
So you're going to laugh because I remember Darian and I were walking the pit road before that race. And he goes, I think I got to play. What do you think about this? What do you think about this? And I say, hey, buddy, I've called 10 of these, just so you're clear. I don't mean 10 Daytona 500s. I mean 10 races. This is the 11th race of my career. So I can't really help you. Like, that's all I could do to worry about my one car.
Yeah.
So 06. I mean, the shop, we that year.
Yep.
I think the 24 won 2 or 3.
Yep.
48 won 6, 7.
6 or 7,
a bunch.
something like that.
48 won the championship.
Yep.
24 was somewhere in there, top 5 or 6. Good year. And then 07, the year of we're going to have 2 cars because that's a great idea. And we ran the COT and the standard car. We
kicked it, buddy.
We did. That was a big
year.
Killed it. That was a big year. You just 6 weeks off.
No,
don't think we're not going to skip that. Now that one's getting ready to come up.
We won 18 out of 36 races out of our building.
That's right. That's right. One building, one team with 2 crew chiefs and 2 drivers won half the races that year.
That was so fantastic.
I could have won some when we were suspended.
Yeah. Instead, Steve made me play golf a lot.
We won. Remember, we wheelhawked at Watkins Glen.
That's right. He was running from Tony.
That one was close. Almost won New Hampshire. Denny beat us on 2 tires.
Yeah, yeah.
We were there for that one. Let's go back to Sonoma.
Is that the year that Newman beat me at Indy on a 2-tire call too?
It might have been.
I think so. So I think there was a few
like of those 6, we were like, man, we did. I mean,
we should have had more.
From the computer, we're pretty good. We go to Sonoma. We don't have to relive the whole thing, but I'll never forget. We push our cars through inspection, and the fenders are no good. You got to work on them. Okay.
Yep.
And by the time they went from no good to work on them, by the time they got back to our garage stall, it was you aren't practicing, and we're in big trouble.
Yep. Cut them off.
Cut them off. And you and I went in the truck.
And I still have the theory. I think. John Darby, as much as I like him, I think he just had too much wine the night before and he was hungover.
He was pissed?
I think he was hungover.
Listen, I'll never forget.
He was cranky.
I walked up in there. Darby was one thing and a couple of others. But when Mike Helton started speaking, I kind of looked at you and you looked at me and you kind of started looking at the floor. I'm like, I'm going to take his lead. Like, now is not a time to speak. And we were spoken to.
Yeah, I've had a few of those.
But we bounced back in 07.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about 07 because we bounced back. Jeff, I'd love to say, oh, yeah, we had it all figured out. Jeff Gordon is one of the greatest ever because he basically just put it on his shoulders, and we were so consistent that year.
Yeah.
I tell everybody all the time, if Jeff Gordon got the 40-year-old me, we would have won way more races because I just didn't know.
Sure.
We enter the playoffs, it resets, and you had your moment. My moment was 07. We win race 4 and 5. And then you jackasses win race 6, 7, 8, and 9. You won 4 races in a row.
I forgot that.
4 in a row. And I'll never forget.
We won 4 races in a row?
You did. Thank you.
Wow.
You did.
What races were they?
Do
you know? I don't remember.
You finished Phoenix. You won Texas, Phoenix, Martinsville, maybe Kansas, but I'd be guessing.
Yeah.
I know
awesome.
Phoenix, and here's why. Because I was pitted in the good stall at the end of the straightaway before the corner.
Yep.
Qualified good. And we ran like 6th. Not great, but 6th.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, as long as that moment for Daytona for you, I'll never forget. I walked from the pit box that day, walked back to the hauler, and it was the longest walk of my career. Because we left like it was over, right? Like, there's one to go, but it's over, right? And it was that moment where, and looking back on it, I didn't appreciate the opportunity. You guys and Gordon made it look so easy to win championships for so long, which we both know it isn't.
Yeah.
But we both were raced here, right? Like, you went to New York, you celebrated.
Yeah, that's what we
I
did.
didn't appreciate the moment.
Yeah.
It was thick.
It's tough. What we do is
I
not
skipped
easy.
right over the Martinsville where you beat me with my own damn setup. It wasn't even really my setup. It was Rex Stump setup that I just put in.
Hey, man, that's one of the coolest video
It's the
clips
best
ever,
videos.
right? You see Jeff.
So you weren't there. So we were beating on your bumper forever, and we couldn't pass you. Dukart was standing on you.
Yeah.
Dukart was kind of new. I remember I turned around, spiked my computer, and told him, I'll never help him again, ever.
But you did.
But I did. I did. I forgot. I don't mean to back up. Remember the advice? I don't know if you remember this one. I was fortunate enough to win Martinsville in 05. You sent me the same advice that Loomis gave you. You text me and said, congratulations, you're a winner. You'll always have a job. You followed it up with, but it's Jeff Gordon at Martinsville, so it's a half a win.
It's only a half win.
That's what you told me.
And then you went Sonoma.
Yeah, then it was Sonoma.
And I said, that's the other half, and now you got a full one.
I got a full win.
I was taking Jeff Gordon to Sonoma or Martinsville. That doesn't count.
It did too. It took 2. So, listen, that's 06, 07. But I want to talk about 5 in a row.
Yep.
Because it's different now. So pretend we're not now. When it was happening, did you have any idea how unbelievable it was?
No, I had no idea.
Like, were you just in the washing machine?
Yeah, and I'm really sad about that. Just like how you said we won 4 in a row.
You don't know.
I really don't remember, Steve, and that's really just sad.
Isn't it?
But
here's the problem. I don't know if you can win 4 in a row the other way.
And you may not. I don't know.
I mean, I'm being truthful, right?
Yeah.
As a guy that had to beat you, I'm quoted, right? One reason I went to TV is because I worked next to you. And in my mind, you were the blueprint. And if that was the effort required, I didn't have it.
Yeah.
And I'm a tough guy, but I'm like, I don't, like, I can raise my hand now and say, I can't work as hard as he does.
Yeah. I was in a different spot, man. I was, and I still am. I'm not like I was.
I've watched from afar. You're a different guy sitting here today.
I am.
You wouldn't have took an hour on a Wednesday.
No.
We'd have had to do this at like midnight.
I'm sad that I didn't enjoy some of that stuff, but we wouldn't have accomplished what we accomplished if I took time to enjoy it. I didn't identify with it. Tony Stewart's one of the first ones that came up to me after we won the championship, the 5th one, and he said, you'll never understand how special it is. And he said this at Homestead,
right,
as they were loading up his car. You'll never understand how special this is until you're done. And he was also the first one that came up to me the next year and said the exact same thing. You'll never understand how hard it was and how special it was what you did. So don't beat yourself up too much, because I was deflated when we didn't win that 6th one. But what's so hard is the expectation is to win, and you don't want to let your people down. You don't want. I didn't want to let Rick down. I didn't want to let Jimmy down. I didn't want to let our fans down. I didn't want to let myself down. You know, when you get to the point where you've won so much and that expectation is there, you immediately think that if you don't win, you're done or you're fired, and I didn't want to live that.
What was our joke? We get off the plane and swipe our key card. Beep, turn green. We're like, all right, we're still employed. So do you think, and maybe you can't answer this, but did number 7 mean more because there was losses?
Yeah.
You know, you win 1 through 5, but then it's not 6, 7. Like it's bump. And I would argue, I don't know if you would agree, but from afar. Now, granted, I was here for most of them. 7, I got to see from a different view, but it was anything but smooth. I mean, that playoff was a grind.
That was a tough year.
So do you think? So my point is, do you think it's different?
Yeah,
winning a 7th that way.
Yeah, they're all different. They're all unique. I don't remember them all. That 7th one was really challenging and tough. By all rights, we probably shouldn't have won that championship. I'm not going to say it fell in our lap because we had to battle for it. But you know, we made it into the playoffs. We got there. We got to the end. We won Martinsville, and that Martinsville one is what put us in position to go win Homestead. Because as soon as we got done there, I was at work Monday morning working on that car for Homestead.
Right. You knew what was ahead.
That's all I cared about. I could have stayed home from the other 2 races because I wasn't even there. I was completely checked out. All I was worried about was Homestead. We went down there. We qualified 5th, 6th?
Sounds right.
Something like that. Pretty fast.
Good.
Practiced really well. The 19 and the 22 were fast, and I'm like, man, this is going to be a brawl. Like, this is going to be really exciting. And we're on the grid for the start of the race. And
I forgot this part.
Oh, yeah, most people do.
Oh, yeah. Glad you brought it up. I didn't have to. This is nice.
And we did a little enhancement to our car that NASCAR didn't approve of. So they're singing the national anthem, and they're making us put our car back through technical inspection.
I remember this.
So we're pushing the car off the grid. Jimmy's walking up from driver's intros, and he's like, "Oh, wait, what? Where's my car?
We'll
going?"
be right back.
I'm like, hey, bud, everything's fine.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, don't start like that when my car's rolling away. I'm like, okay, look, here's the deal. We did a little something. They're not real happy.
Right.
We'll be right back. And he's like, are you getting thrown out? And I'm like, not yet.
I'm pretty sure I'm coming back.
I think I'm okay. So we get through tech, we come back out, and we start shotgun on the field.
Yeah.
So it's not easy.
People don't realize how much effort, just car effort, pit crew, like just to work through the field is.
It's not easy at Homestead. Tire fall off is high, kind of limited on where you can run. And we dropped the green flag, and Jimmy, being the champion he is, he dropped his visor, went to the front, and drove and passed cars, got us up into the top 10 really quickly. I think maybe by the first round of pit stops, and then we're up there. And we're running 4th, 5th, 3rd, 6th. And then those other 2 cats, the 19 and the 22, they're just battling up front. And I'm just like, how in the world can we get up
How are we
going
to get there?
How can we just, because there were like 3 cars that we just couldn't get through. And shoot, then they decided to crash on that restart. And we're like, oh my gosh, look at this. This is going to be exciting. You got to beat the 42. And if you can beat the 42, we got this thing. And shoot, he put on his cape and just drove up there.
Hey, it's a race for a reason. It was great. I got to call it from the booth. It was amazing, without a doubt. I'm so many questions are people going to have about the decision for you and Jimmy to go different ways. I actually don't have the questions there. I've lived the relationship of our driver and a crew chief. I can't believe y'all made it as long as you can. I can't believe any of us have made it as long as we have. So I want to look at actually a different point in your life. So people that don't know is, and you would never admit this when it happened, but you can admit it now, you are like one of my daughter's idols. Because when she was a little – so people don't know, for a long time there were no families on the planes.
Yeah.
And it was your contract had come up, and you were the one that said, hey, look, I don't have a family, but Mr. H, I think we should change this for the crew chiefs because we work all the time. So this is me thanking you because of that, because no offense, but I didn't really have any rings. So I didn't know if probably I had negotiation power, but you did.
And by rings, he means championship rings, not wedding rings.
Yeah, championship rings. So you got my kid. And what people don't realize is, so my wife, Trisha's a saint. She'd bring both kids. But you get home from a race, and it's like 2 kids and bags and this.
Yeah.
And Chad was Mr. Ashland. My daughter would be on his shoulder, and he would carry her to the car more Sunday nights.
Love that little girl. She's not little anymore.
They're not little. We ran into each other today. You couldn't believe it. So that's my point is, when you were going through all of this, you have always been like a damn uncle to my kids, as sweet as can be. What was it like when you finally had your own?
Oh, jeez. It's I still get emotional about it. I got goosebumps just by you doing that. See, look, I'm not lying.
I'm telling you, it's people laugh, but it's put it all in perspective for me.
It's the best thing I've ever done in my life. I'm so proud of myself that I waited, because I would not have been as appreciative of my child if I'd have done it 15 years ago.
Yep.
I wouldn't have understood the emotional connection. I wouldn't have understood the miracle that it is. And my son Kipling, man, he is just, I love him to pieces. I told Brooke, my wife, I said, I thought I loved you.
That's so true.
I said, I'm sorry, babe. I like you a whole lot.
I tell my wife, I know I'm third. I get it. I know I'm third. It's no problem. 2 kids, right?
I love him so much, and he's so great, and he's just over a year old, and he's got a ton of personality. And you know my wife, Brooke, she's the sweetest woman in the world. And that's why we're together, because she can handle it. Like, she's so sweet and understanding and tolerant, and he's got her demeanor.
Oh, yeah.
Which is just amazing. Like, he's
good thing, because if he had your demeanor, I don't know if she'd be like, look, I can't handle 2 of you.
Yeah, she's done a great job with them. But I'll tell you, man, I'd get home when I can. It got to the point, we had this conversation the other day. You know, when they're babies, you get up and you feed them in the middle of the night. Okay. That meant I got to spend time with him in the middle of the night. And when he got to the point where he was sleeping through the night, I was a little sad, because I would get home from work and he might already be in bed and I may not see him the next day. So those were, 20, 30, 40 minutes twice a night that I would spend time with him that I was missing out on. But man, I love it. He says Dada all the time. We FaceTime. Thank God for technology.
Right.
It's really fantastic. Every Thursday I'm taking him to a day school that he goes to, which he loves. I put him on this little backpack carrier thing, and we walk down Tryon Street in downtown Charlotte. He loves it. It's great.
That is awesome. So for me, it's special. So I've known you since I was 16.
Yeah.
So to see this come full circle is truly amazing. I couldn't be happier for you. That's on the personal side. How has that affected the professional, right? So you and Jimmy split up.
Yep.
Jimmy goes about his way, you go about your way,
yep.
and you get I wish he was still here because I'd call him out a kid. I mean, a kid. Now, hell of a race car driver,
Yeah.
wise kid. I'm not taking anything, but let's be clear. He's a kid.
Well, I
Versus
disagree
us.
with you 100%. He's a man. He's a 21-year-old man.
Oh, yeah, I'll give you that. God,
And-
are we that old?
Yeah. So he just looks young.
Okay, that's it. He looks like a kid.
Yeah,
but
he
is-
does.
and he
And this
doesn't
is-
drive
this
like a
is-
kid either, though.
No, he doesn't. This is what I told people because everybody called him a kid. Even Max Pappas works with him.
Right.
Called him a kid. Mr. Hendrick called him a kid. And when I said, when he and I were doing this, I sat him down, looked him in the eye, I said, "You are not a child. You're not a kid."
Point. It's a great point.
And I told everybody on the team because they're like, "Oh, the kid's got talent." No. The young man has talent.
Mm-hmm.
And we have treated him like an adult and like a man since the moment that I came over here.
Yeah, because if you act like a kid, they're going to treat you like a kid.
Exactly. And
That's a
if
good point.
as much as you call somebody that, you're going to treat them that. So, and Mr. Hendrick was in here just a moment ago. You saw him, Stevie, and he said kid, and he corrected himself and said
That's
this
awesome.
young man. So, yeah, Jimmy and I, look, man, I can recap that real quick. Look, we were together for 18 years, I think it was, and it's just time for a change. That's all it was.
Fair.
And the expectation's super high on both of us, puts a lot of pressure on both of us. I love Jimmy as much now as I ever did.
Right.
And we're as good of friends now as we've ever been. We hug it out all the time on the phone with him.
I'd be
texted
willing to challenge that if the change wasn't made, you wouldn't be able to say that.
I agree 100%.
Like there was a moment where it's like,
Absolutely.
okay, this is it, right?
getting
Like
ugly.
we're there.
Yeah. And so I was like, look, we're going to do something different. I've had a good run.
Yeah, right.
Done. Good run. 7 championships, handful of races. Things are pretty good. And then Mr. Hendrick said, and Jeff Gordon, actually, Jeff is actually the one that started it. He's like, man, I really think William's got some talent. I'm like, oh, yeah, he's pretty good,
No doubt, yeah.
there's no doubt. Good, yeah. No, but I really think he's pretty good. So what do you think about maybe being crew chief over there? I was like, I thought I was like going to work in the office
Like
now.
I feel like I've served my time.
Yeah,
here.
right. I've been on the front line for a long
Yeah,
time
right.
here. He's like, yeah, but man, I really think it would do some good for him, and he could use some mentorship, and the team needs some structure, and you've done a good job, and we like to do it. So then Mr. H gets involved, and clearly they've been working on this on the backside.
Right.
And
Yeah,
then-
they act like we don't know that they aren't talking.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then so then William calls, and I called William. We chatted up a little bit, and I'm like, and I sit down with Brooke, and I'm like, look, here's the deal. We can go this path, or we can go this path. And she's like, you want to compete, and I'm like, yeah, I do. And she's like, well, give it a go, see what happens. So we did, and here we are today.
So when it was announced, I sent William a text, and I said, "Hey man,
Good luck."
Well, because his dad and I have talked for the last couple of years, and I covered his kind of trip through Xfinity, and I
Yeah.
sent him a text and said, "Listen, I'm going to tell you straight up how it's going to be." I said, "There will be days it's not fun. There'll be a lot of days it's not easy. There'll be a few days that you won't like him." I said, "But I can assure you that he means the best in all of it, and if you can just accept it, listen to him, and do what he says, you will be a better race car driver."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Thanks." And I said, "And anytime you need a pep talk, here's my number." And he kind of laughed. But my point is that, and I'll go back to my Jeff thing. I was always, I could never take that. You and Jeff both gave me the best advice ever. Jeff Gordon told me to treat him like everyone else on the team. I never could. And you said, if you have a problem with Jeff, call Jeff.
Yeah.
Like, don't tell me. Call Jeff, and you'll move forward. I did a little better of that at the second half. But, it took a lot to get there.
Sure.
And with William and you just have this well, he's even said it. The first half of the year was kind of figuring out how it was supposed to work.
Right.
And now you guys seem like you have this comfort. So you talked about how special that Daytona win was. You have 7 championships. I don't want to compare them all. But how special will the win be when you and William get that win? Because I have no doubt it's coming. But how special will that be to win with a young man as a driver, a different driver in a different era?
Yeah, I hope we can get it done. We've already accomplished much, much more this year than what I had thought we should. New team, new driver. But, again, we just had a big meeting in here, this room.
Let me guess. Race like you belong in the round of 12. Can I give the bullet points that you probably said?
All
Because
that's
I know
good.
that had to be.
Well,
that's true, though.
That's the truth.
If you act like you don't belong, then you're done.
Right. And the thing that I've told my guys, and we really hit on it today, was what have you done outside of your comfort zone over the course of the last 3 weeks? And everybody's like, nothing. I should have just stopped right there.
Yeah.
Because I actually ended up talking, for another 30 minutes.
Right.
But the point was delivered at the start. We went to Richmond and we fumbled. Looked like a bunch of buffoons. Our whole company did. That was just, we struggle at Richmond. But we went to Las Vegas and we did what we should.
Recovered, flat tire down pit road.
Yeah, we did all that. We just did it, right? We went to the Roval and did what we should, and guess what? We're here. So if you just take Richmond out and put in a handful more points that we should have raced better, we should, off stats, be able to move to the next round.
Yeah.
And that's really cool. Qualifying on the pole 5 times, I think it is so far, and I don't know how many times all front row. But it was really neat to be able to go to Daytona and sit on the pole for the 500 with a new team. That was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
I was like,
been here.
You just don't know what's going to happen, right? And that happens. Everybody's like, especially the guys on the team who have never really done a whole lot. They're like, whew, geez, this guy's for real.
Oh yeah.
This is serious stuff. So it's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed it. These guys are great. They're really coming into their own. And if we can get to victory lane, which I think this team is more than capable of, especially now in the position that we're in, we've had to points race so much this year that we've kind of taken ourselves away from that for the greater good.
Yeah.
Now I think we're in a position to where we don't have to win to make the next transition, but we have to perform at such a high level that we're going to be much closer to winning.
Tell everybody all the time, you don't win from 5th or 10th. You taught me that, right? You run up front, and eventually you end up victory lane because it's the best spot to be. CK, I can't thank you enough. It's a Wednesday. I know you're busy. You got a lot ahead of you. I appreciate your time. It was fun to go back memory lane. I call you a friend. You've been a mentor for years. Now I get to cover you as a crew chief, and I'm not sure I have the resume to do it, but I do it anyway. So I question all your pit calls and all your car. That's my job, but I appreciate the time, man. It's been fun.
Yeah, man, I've enjoyed it. You've done a good job on TV. It's been fun to watch you grow and what you do. And, man, you got an amazing little family. Well, they're not little anymore. They're just – I couldn't believe Ashlyn when she stood up. I was like, jeez, girl. She's – how tall is she? 5'10"?
She's growing up too fast. Yes, 5'10".
And it's just amazing. So it's good stuff, man. I wish we could we'll do it again sometime. Maybe we'll do this annually or something like that.
I love it. All right, Letarte on location at Hendrick Motorsports, the Papa Joe Hendrick meeting room. In my mind, this is the old 24 shop because this is where it all started. Chad Knaus was the guest. Subscribe and rate and review. Let us know what you think of the podcast.